Hello again everybody, and welcome back to the Red Flag 16-2 campaign in the F-15C. So this is mission number 3, it's the first of the full-up Red Flag missions, day 1 of the air campaign. And I'll pull up the briefing package and I'll hit the highlights of the briefing. The full package is available at the download link in the video description if you want to read the whole thing for yourself, but there is a lot going on this one, so I'll do my best to hit the highlights at least. So following our orientation mission yesterday, CIA and other intelligence sources have intercepted comms from the frontline Russian Federation forces telling them to execute their O plan in 24 hours. And as a result, our own O plan is going to be executed over the next 10 days or so, and it's going to call for preemptive strikes against Russian Federation communications, command and control, intelligence, armor, and IADS, air defense targets, and close air support will be provided to a limited presence of US and British special forces, with our Eagles, of course, maintaining a mixed sweep and cap throughout all of these missions. And we have the air campaign laid out in front of us. Day 1 is just destruction and degradation of the communications, command and control, and intelligence capabilities, and then F-15 sweeps and combat air patrols. And then day 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 follow, and these are going to be the plan for the next 2 weeks, with the weekend off, of course, since this is, after all, an exercise. So we'll press on to the mission briefing, and there is a lot of great background information that I'm skipping over here. I would highly recommend, if you're following these in detail, going back and reading through this is very, very interesting, and it clarifies what's going on in a lot of the scenario. Okay, so today's summary, we, the Grim Reapers, will be flying a mixed sweep ahead of a strike force of F-16s, A-10s, F-15Es, and Tornado GR-4s, striking those C3I targets west of the FIBA, so out here in the Red Land to the west of the FIBA, which is in the same location as it was on the first 2 missions. So our role is to engage and kill enemy fighters, simple enough. Now, there's no indication that the Russian forces have any idea of our preemptive strike, and it goes into detail right here about the signature reduction that's been going on for the last days. We've had the rotating caps on station, so the air picture to the SAM operators and the early warning radar operators on the red side will look identical to what it looked like on the first 2 days until this big strike package shows up out of nowhere. And a classic example actually of signature reduction is the weeks leading up to the first day of Desert Storm, and it was a similar setup to this with the rotating combat air patrols up there just 24/7 with the occasional push out to the Iraqi border, so that the only indication that anything was out of the ordinary on day 1 was that the power and communications from the SAM sites linking them together went down, and of course, yeah, the SAM sites started to get taken out, so it's the same situation right here. Now, moving on to additional details for intel, we're going to have E-3 AWACS aircraft on station giving us radio calls telling us where the enemy aircraft are. The Red Air combat air patrols are going to be located across the FIBA, and they're going to be covered by SA-11 and SA-10 SAM sites. And we also expect the Fulcrum and flankers, MiG-29s and Sukhoi-27s, to be equipped with AA-10 and AA-11 missiles. So I'm expecting to be up against a semi-active radar homing missile and a short-range IR guided missile. And with our active radar M120s, we're going to have the advantage up until the point we get in close with these guys. So if we can take these guys out from long range, that's what we definitely want to do. And it is understood but not confirmed that the Sukhois may be carrying the L005 ECM equipment. So the MiGs are going to be a little bit, I would imagine, easier to take out from long range especially than the Sukhoi-27s. And we expect for the Red Air not to fire until fired upon. So until we get out here probably to steer point 9, this is our track, incidentally, coming over here from the Marshall area, past steer point 8, past the 2 Chevy caps, steer point 9, and then a right-hand turn up to steer point 10, making a sweep for enemy aircraft until we set up on a combat air patrol between steer point 11 and then back to steer point 10, which is co-located with steer point 12. So the key here from my point of view as the F-15 flight is to hit these guys hard initially before they know what's coming, because once we make our incursion past the FIBA and start getting missiles in the air, then they're going to react, and that's not something that I really want to deal with if I can help it. So coming down to the next page, it notes that we can expect them to try to drag us into this SA-10 surface-to-air missile and SA-11 surface-to-air missile engagement envelope. So the SA-10 is a longer range SAM, so once it does go active, it's going to be looking out here and be able to engage us all the way out to the FIBA, or even a little bit past if we're on the southern edge of our route. The SA-11s, as long as we don't go any further west than steer point 9 and 10, shouldn't be a problem, but that's not something I want to do. I want to stay certainly out of this SA-11 envelope. So the landmarks that I'm going to be using, now that I'm thinking about it, the Colwich Range up here just to the east of Tonopah, west of the Reveille Peak, and the FIBA will mark really the western extent of where I want to go. And yeah, the same range comes down to the south, and yeah, that'll be the western extent of where I really want to go, so I'll need to bear that in mind, especially as I'm heading west on that initial cap. I don't need to get too focused on the enemy aircraft because I will get shot down if I get out here too far to the west, I know it. Now those SAM sites, these are going to be located at a southern airfield and a northern airfield that we saw on the tour in the Range 76 area. So yeah, one at the northern airfield, one at the southern airfield with the SA-10 up here by Talicha Peak. And then actually up here over Tonopah Test Range to the north of the SAM sites, we have additional restricted airspace that we don't want to fly into. I don't think it would be as big a deal to fly into this by mistake as it would be to fly into the Groom Lake container down here to the south. My understanding is that this piece of restricted airspace is just in place during the red flag to serve as like a little holding area and respawn area for the red aircraft, typically just F-15s and F-16s that flew straight up here from Nellis, and then they would just need a place to hold out of the way. But I will observe that restriction as well, and I think if I make the mistake of flying this far west, I'm going to get shot down by the surface-to-air missile threat anyway, so I'll bear that in mind, but I don't see that being an issue when it comes to my routing. And then I just need to remember, if I do happen to chase anybody south, then I have the Nevada test site restricted airspace down here to deal with, but I don't think that'll be an issue at all. I think I'm just going to hang out between 9 and 10 and just right in this little area, and if I need to get out of the area, I'll just fly due east or just slightly east, northeast to come up to steer point 11. Now, additional surface-to-air missile threats that we see here, mobile SA-19s abutting the western edge of the FIBA just behind Belted Peak. Now, Belted Peak is going to be right here, or actually no, specifically it's going to be right here, this little guy, the northernmost peak that juts out from this range. So just to the west of that, we expect SA-19s. I'm going to be flying directly over them, so as long as I stay high, at this point I'm going to be anywhere from 25 to 29,000 feet. I'll keep an eye out down here, but yeah, I don't expect the SA-19s to be a threat to me. Actually, I'm doubting that now. Let me go and do some research on the SA-19. I'll be right back. Okay, so SA-19 system that we see in the encyclopedia right here, sort of a combination AAA and short-range SAM. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Max effective altitude, 6,000 meters or 20,000 feet or so. Now, as long as I keep that in mind, I'll stay up at least above 25,000 feet. That's the planned altitude for this leg. So I should be just fine when it comes to that threat. Only the SA-11 and SA-10 can reach up and get me for this mission. Okay, let me go back to the briefing. Okay, and then we have some more advice here in the briefing concerning the SA-19s. If we threat react to any SA-10 launch from the west, we need to take it down low to be successful. So if we do that, we need to bear the SA-19s in mind. So yeah, definitely good call. And there is a lot of good advice in this briefing. I'm skipping past a lot of it, but you can learn a lot if you're new to this, or even if you're experienced. I'm learning a lot just reading through the briefings here. So continuing on, and it talks about the ground control intercept radars, and those were known, those EWs that were popping up on our RWR are still going to be out there, and those are going to be targets, I understand, for some of the flights on this mission, as we have an F-16 flying by the window out there that you can probably hear. Okay, so 4-3, we're going to be 4-3-1, and we'll marshal in the Caliente Bravo, steer point 6 and 7 airspace, following a 15-48 takeoff. So, okay, marshaling between 6 and 7 out over Caliente Bravo, and this is why the mission before this happened, is to get us familiar with this, so we're not trying to figure this out as we are on this full-up combat mission. Now, we're going to be the last to taxi and take off, so I just need to make sure that all the other flights, I'll be able to look around and hear them and see them taxiing. I'll be the last to taxi and take off, and I'll expect to leave chocks at 1546. So, standard departure, same exact identical departure as we flew on the last mission, in fact. So cross the push line, and we're going to be pushing at 1607. So we're going to be holding at steer point 6 and 7. 1607 will push, we'll cross the north-south push line, go to steer point 8, fly to steer point 9, conduct a sweep, and that'll be a right-hand turn to steer point 10. And then after that sweep, we reset on a cap for a plus 40 vol, 40 minutes on this cap between steer point 11 and steer point 10 or 12. At that point, just covering the strike package as it enters and takes out targets out here in Redland. And just as another little tip or another note here, if the situation demands it, if we just get overwhelmed numerically when it comes to red air, we can always drag them out here to the east, and then Chevy 1 and Chevy 2 can come in and engage. So this is just full of good sound advice. Okay, so we don't want to be too concerned with the strikers, but their time on target, generally speaking, is going to be between 1615 and 1621 local. So 1615, okay, that's going to be 8 minutes after push. So they're going to be like right behind us. Yeah, that would make sense. We'll push in with our sweep, and they should just be right below us or slightly behind us if I time this correctly. We'll sweep in, take care of the red air. The strike package will go in, do their thing, and then everybody exits the area as I provide a combat air patrol up here. Yeah, this is a good, I like the design. This is very, very good. Okay, so other assets. C, we're going to have Tornado, Colt 3-1 and 3-2. Now, I thought, yeah, from the last mission, the Tornadoes were going under the Uzi call sign. This might just be a little typo in the briefing here. Okay, F-16 CJs, these are Colt 4-1 and 4-2, and the 16s were Colt as they were recovering. A-10s, Hog 2 and Infield 1, and they're going to be striking armor just to the south of Steer Point 9. So, you're right down here in the range 75 area. And Precision Strike, Strike Eagles, Dodge 1, striking C3I bunker to the northwest of Steer Point 8. So, that can't be right, can it? Yeah, that must mean Steer Point 9 right there. So to the northwest, they'll just be hitting a bunker up here on probably range 75. And then Dodge 2 striking an early warning site, one of those dog ear early warning radar sites to the northwest of Steer Point. Yeah, that's got to be Steer Point, or 9 again. Yeah, probably up here in the EC West, Electronic Combat Range West area somewhere. Okay, gotcha. So yeah, that's making a whole lot of sense to me now. EID matrix for basically just for a decision to take a shot or not to take a shot. So lack of friendly IFF and NCTR identification. So if I see a box on the radar and I lock it up and I get a positive identification through NCTR and the radar, I can take a shot. If I visually ID them, I can take a shot. And a lack of friendly IFF or a box on the radar display as opposed to a circle in addition to an AWACS declared bandit, then I can take the shot. So yeah, that makes sense. Just as long as I know that it's not friendly, I can take a shot. Now, Joker and Bingo Fuel, 7K and 4.5K. That'll be the points where we need to start to make our way back to Nellis. That shouldn't be an issue. The F-15 can fly forever with full load of fuel and wing tanks. Taxi standard, takeoff, objects, formation, fence. Everything is standard exactly as it was last time. Steer Point 5 is going to be the bullseye out here over Mount Helen, and so with that, I think we are ready to go. I've read through this once before I recorded this. I'll read through it again afterwards just to make sure I have everything squared away. I have my lineup card with the players and call signs down here. I have everything backed up here that I need, and 1547 for the takeoff. So with that, let me go ahead and get in the cockpit and we'll get this going. Okay, we'll pick things up again on the ramp at Nellis. I've got my flight, the 432, 33, and 34. Out there to my right, I've got an E3 AWACS aircraft on the takeoff roll. So let me go ahead and get things going. I'll close the canopy, and I'm going to be able to take my time on this one. It is, as briefed, a 1547 takeoff. So I've got 7 minutes, so that's plenty of time in the F-15 that we have here. So let's go ahead and go power on. Right shift L. And clear fore and aft on engine number 1, my left-hand engine, so that's right alt home. I'll get a good start progressing. Okay, and a typical red flag departure would run something like this, with the AWACS and the tankers getting on station first and taking off, and then the rest of the players would just sort of stack in, and it would be just 30, 45 minutes or more of just takeoff after takeoff as all the players get into the air. Okay, Overlord is going to be our E3. I've got a good start progressing on engine number 1. And I'm going to, I'll take my time here and relax. I'll probably cut some of the takeoff and some of the entry into the airspace out as I have the Tornadoes taxiing now from the RMD arm, the West Alpha RMD arm. That's a good start on 1. Okay, clear fore and aft on the right side. That's right control home. We'll get engine number 2 up and running. And the startup in the F-15 is going to be as simple as that. And there would be enough time built into this that even if I don't make my takeoff time, I would have a chance to catch up somewhat. And the pilot would step early enough to the aircraft so that if something did happen, if the radar fails us bit check, or if I have flight control problems, or something with the oil or hydraulic pressure, or any of a number of maintenance issues, I could shut down, step over to a spare aircraft real quick, and let me see if we're putting, I think we're just putting we're putting 8 in the air. So if I were putting 8 in the air, I would probably have at least 2 spare aircraft out here. So I would step to one of those, fire it up, and then taxi. But yeah, even if I don't make the 1547 takeoff time, I'm still in good shape. Okay, Uzi 1. Okay, yeah, so those tornadoes are going to be Uzi flight. Gotcha, as we have the other Lake and Heath F-15Cs taxiing out. And I'm going to be the last to taxi, so yeah, I'm just going to hang out here and take it easy, and I'll be back once we get things moving along. Okay, we have more aircraft starting to stack in. These are F-15E Strike Eagles, SJ, Seymour Johnson tails. You see, these guys have Mark 82 Airs, a sort of high drag variants of the Mark 82s out there on the CFT, conformal fuel tank stations. These guys have GBU-31 version 3s. These are the 2,000-pound penetrator variant of the GBU-31 JDAM, GPS-guided munitions. So these would be the ones that, yeah, this would be the Dodge flight that is going in there to take out the bunker, and that's the perfect weapon for that. As we have Lake and Heath F-15Cs starting to get airborne. Now listen out for call signs also as they get into the air, so I know who's who. And I see way back in the distance some more aircraft taxiing, so we still have a few minutes here. It is now 15:44, so yeah, we're still looking very, very good on time. And we now have the last of the F-15 Strike Eagle flights airborne. We have some F-16s. These would be loaded with AGM-88 HARMs, high-speed anti-radiation missiles, so these will be going in to take out surface-to-air missile sites. And WW, Wild Weasel tails out of Misawa. So this will be Colt flight, and that appears to be the last of the flights behind me. I haven't heard the A-10s. I had Hog and infield flight of A-10s, but I haven't heard or seen any sign of them. But I'm going to taxi behind these guys in either case and get airborne, because I'm going to be about a minute or two late on the takeoff, but again, yeah, that's no issue at all. So let's go ahead and request taxi and just flow in behind these guys. And I can look out there in the distance and see the rest of the flights following the same path we will, just the same departure, and then up the Sally corridor as we just flew on the first 2 missions. Okay, so clearance or not, yeah, this is the flight I'm going to follow out. So let me go ahead and taxi out. And just like last time, I'm going to assume that the arm procedure was just done in chocks and flow straight in back of Colt flight. Okay, gotcha. Clear the taxi. And Shell on station. I have 2 Tracker tracks up there, Shell and Texaco, I believe. So I don't see myself getting low on fuel at any point, but I do have that option if I need to. Okay, I'm just going to flow straight into a rolling takeoff here. Clearance or not. Okay, there's Hog 1. That's an A-10 flight passing waypoint 3. So they must have been airborne earlier. Okay, so let's go ahead and line it up. Okay, just a quick check to make sure I'm all squared away here. Okay, let's go ahead and push the throttles on up. I'll put in just a touch of right rudder to compensate for the crosswind I seem to have. Okay, that's actually going pretty good now. Okay, let's go ahead and rotate. As I have my first call coming in from AWACS, let me concentrate on the flying, and then I'll get the call here. Okay, let's go gear up. Okay, as we look down there to the ramp at Nellis, and okay, gotcha. Finally clear for takeoff, and I'm just going to make the standard left-hand turn out here past the speedway. And I was, let's see here, I was about 4 minutes behind on the takeoff, but yeah, I'll be able to cut the corner up here and Actually, I probably won't even need to do that. I'll check on the timing once I get established here. I'll do some quick math and see just how far behind we are. But I think there is, like I was saying, some pad built into this. Okay, gotcha. So I have the calls from AWACS, BRA, bearing range and altitude. So for example, yeah, this one is on a bearing of 319 for a distance of 110 miles, and the aircraft is at 21,000 feet flanking, so they're going from my right to left or left to right. So what I do is just a little quick check is anytime I get a bearing and I'm not sure exactly what direction I'm heading, I'll just sort of glance down here to my HSI, like that one I believe was 319, so I can just at a glance tell, okay, it's off in that direction. So if you ever see me, like when I get AWACS calls, just sort of glancing up there and or just sort of glancing down and then back up, that's sort of what I'm doing as a little cross-check of my own assessment of what the direction is I should be looking. Okay, let me go ahead and get rid of the comms menu. And yeah, I've got the aircraft flowing up the side of the corridor. Now let me have a look at navigation. Let me go navigation mode, and I'll step it up to steer point 6 real quick. Okay, hog 1, and yeah, 13 minutes to steer point 6, and steer point 6 is going to be, yeah, my first Marshall waypoint. So this is where I'm heading. I'm just going to hold up here until 1607. So if I have 15 minutes to that steer point, 10, 15, I'm about 2 minutes behind. So I think once I get up to speed and up to altitude, that will, yeah, that's going to take care of that. So I'm just going to fly this exactly as briefed, and I'll look back there for my flight. And since I am up at, no, I did pull it back, I'm about 91% on my engine RPM. My flight will be able to catch up, no sweat. And it looks like, okay, this one's 307 for 90 at 22,000 flanking. And this one was called hot instead of flanking, so that means that the aircraft is coming towards me. Okay, so still too far out to worry about it, and it's still in the expected location, so I'm just going to turn and follow Colt flight up the corridor.